Hello, friends, and welcome back to Malicious Compliance Stories. Our first story is all about dealing with that one coworker, the power-hungry office tyrant who thrives on making everyone's life miserable. But before we begin, best way to support our channel is to leave comments, like, and subscribe with the turned-on bell so you don't miss the new video every single day. Here we go. Petty revenge on the break-time tyrant. Back at my first grown-up job, I was hourly. In my state, employers are only required to pay for 2 10-minute breaks and allow a half-hour unpaid lunch for hourly workers. Since the lunch was unpaid and we could flex our schedules to leave early on various weekdays, none of us took lunches unless we had to run an errand or something. We had a punch clock and would clock in and out for each break. Our office manager, let's call her Gloria, was a level 40 B-word, rude, snarky, and all-around miserable. She lived to be right and make everyone else suffer. The only people she sucked up to were the president and VP, who knew she was awful but still sided with her. Gloria was a stickler for the rules, unless she had to follow them, of course, and she used them to hurt others. One of those rules concerned the clocks and breaks. If an employee went over 13 minutes for a break, it would be counted as lunch, therefore unpaid, and the employee would have to stay clocked out for at least 30 minutes. You could go longer. I once took a 2-hour lunch for an appointment. To illustrate, if you went to clock in after your break and saw 15 minutes had passed, you might as well go take another smoke because you now have to wait at least another 15 minutes to hit the minimum 30. After 2 years at this place, I was completely fed up with Gloria. Many horror stories, so I started my job hunt. In the meantime, my compliance with Gloria's more ridiculous rules started slipping. I just didn't give a F. The president/VP had never fired anyone in the history of owning the business. They preferred to just make things so bad that you'd leave on your own, so I wasn't worried about losing my income. Instead, I enjoyed making her life as difficult as possible and showing the president/VP how truly bad she was at her job and as a person. I wish I could say this was planned on my part, and a lot of my hijinks were. This one, though, just happened to present itself, and I couldn't not take advantage of it. I had accidentally stayed on my break too long and ran inside to try to beat the clock. The crappy clock system marked the next minute. Fine, I knew she'd adjusted time cards in the past. I explained that it marked the next minute. She also knew how bad the clock system was since she herself was hourly and could take advantage of her unlimited overtime privilege. So I asked if she could please take off that minute so it would count as a break. Gloria: no, you have to take this lunch. Effing serious? You won't change 1 minute? Fine, so I went to the VP. But I didn't go to complain. Me: hey VP, I just had a quick question. For my second break today, I went a minute past. You know that clock system does that? I get that it's a lunch now, so I just wanted to make sure I still get another break. VP: another break? Why? Me: well, since this break wasn't really a break, it's now a lunch, and I get a second paid break. Am I incorrect? VP: did you ask Gloria about this? Me: yeah, she said it had to be a lunch since it went over. VP's a cheap B-turd, the kind who won't close the month if a penny's out of balance. The idea of an employee not working longer than necessary made his forehead vein throb. VP went to Gloria's desk, asked her side. There's no way for her to twist the facts in her favor. After listening to her, he just asked, can we change it back a minute? Okay, then do it. It wasn't a huge win, but it still felt great to mess with her and to get the VP to do it for me. I wonder how many people lost that second break because of that stupid rule, but didn't realize it because she was so crappy. She wasn't managing an office, she was running a personal dictatorship where the only rule was, because I said so. And you found the perfect way to expose how useless her brand of micromanagement really was. And our second story. You want me to throw out the trash? Okay. So about a year ago, the grocery store I work at decided to hire a new assistant manager. I don't really know anything about her except for the fact that she was transferred over from another store. Now, I'm in college at the moment and use this job to make some money, help my parents if they're ever strapped for cash, and to pay off my car. It's not the most important job I think I'll ever have. So one day, this new assistant manager asked me to take out all of the trash, which is easy enough, and it helps kill 2 to 2.5 hours usually. Doing the trash is common sense for the most part. For example, we're supposed to use gloves or make sure to wash our hands when we finish, unless you're cleaning out the register garbage. For the registers, you're supposed to take all of it, put it in a bag, and throw it in the closet in case someone loses a receipt or something is thrown out by accident. And so I began the garbage, put it in the closet, and went on my way to finish the rest of the store until I heard someone yelling my name. SM, stupid manager. OP, what are you doing? The only trash that goes in there is the bookroom garbage. Me. Are you sure about that? No one told me anything about that. SM, yes, I'm sure. Now take that to the compactor. In an attempt to make her happy, I decided to listen even though I knew she was wrong, but whatever, it's a stupid job and I couldn't care less about it anyway. Until the next time I did the trash at least. This time she caught me, and instead of talking to me about it like a normal person, she decided to yell at me about it in front of the whole sales floor. She even called the manager, who she's an assistant for, to tell me exactly what should be done. She calls the manager, tells her I'm putting trash in the closet, and hands me the phone. RM, real manager. Well, as long as there isn't too much garbage, putting it in the closet's fine. Me. Okay, I completely understand. And so I listened. Every time I did the trash, I would take the register garbage and throw it into the compactor. New people were hired, they were taught how to do the trash, and then they would notice me throw the register trash in the compactor, even though they were just told to leave it in the closet. For about 3 to 4 months, I did just as I was told, left the closet clear of trash, unless it was coming from the bookroom, of course, and then the real manager saw me taking the register trash to the compactor. RM, OP, where are you taking that garbage? Me, to the compactor. Why? RM, you know it belongs in the closet, right? Me. Yeah, but SM wants it in the compactor, and she gets angry with me when I put it anywhere else, so I'm listening to her and not putting it in the closet. RM, okay, I understand. Another few weeks go by, and I'm still doing exactly as I was told by the amazing assistant manager, and then, while doing the trash on a seemingly random day, SM comes up to me and quietly says, you can throw that in the closet. The moment I've been waiting for had finally come, and I couldn't be happier. All I said to her was, are you sure? I mean, you did specifically tell me on multiple occasions that it belongs in the back. This is the kind of slow burn, satisfying revenge that makes dealing with insufferable bosses almost worth it. You played the long game perfectly, followed her ridiculous instructions to the letter, made sure everyone saw the contradiction, and then waited for the inevitable backpedal. And our next story. How clocking out for lunch led to an overtime payday and a quick policy reversal. So I spent 10 years working for a company, and hope to go back to working for them after the lockdown, that didn't make us clock out for lunch. We worked at job sites spread all over 3 counties, and expecting everyone to drive back to the shop to clock out for lunch was ridiculous. About 5 years ago, the company got bought by an investment firm that decided they were going to increase efficiency and oversight. Our old time clock model was simple. You spent 9 hours on the clock, spend an hour of that time on lunch break, and get paid for 8. Now, admittedly, some people would abuse the system and disappear for more than an hour, but the new owners didn't want to make waves by directly confronting the offenders, so instead they instituted a new policy that everyone had to head back to the shop and clock out for lunch in the middle of their shift. Then, after lunch, clock back in and head back to their sites. Productivity obviously plummeted, and that probably would have done away with the policy within a few months, but a few coworkers and I took it a step further. When we got back to the shop, we'd clock out, wolf down a sandwich, pound an energy drink, clock back in, and head back to the site 5 minutes later. This meant we were spending 8 hours and 55 minutes on the clock every day. They couldn't say anything because we really were only spending 5 minutes at lunch and spending all of our time on the clock at the site or traveling to it. Having to pay half a dozen guys an extra 5 hours of overtime a week got their attention real quick. The new system lasted 3 weeks. The best part? Even though we went straight back to the site, we couldn't start working until the people who took the full hour got back, so we'd spend an hour getting paid time and a half to watch YouTube videos on our phones. It's generally better to confront the troublemakers instead of disturbing people who are following the rules. People tend to get offended by being punished for things they didn't do. And our last story. The neighbor who thought he could steal my land. Living in upstate New York, surrounded by wooded properties with strange boundary divisions, you'd think people would be respectful of property lines. But apparently that concept was completely lost on my neighbor. My property is an oddly shaped lot, and the far corner juts into his backyard, covering about a quarter acre of his land diagonally. That means that while he technically owns more land than I do, most of it extends into the woods through a narrow bottleneck, making it hard for him to use. The previous owners of my house put up a 6-foot-high chain-link fence that runs in a rectangular shape, so the part that juts into his backyard is on the other side of my fence. That area has been woods for years until he moved in a few years ago and started treating it as his own. At first, I thought he was just confused about the boundaries. I spoke to him twice when he first moved in. The first time I showed him my survey and explained where my property line was. He nodded, acted polite, and I thought we were good. The second time I caught him trying to install an electric dog fence down the side of my fence. Again, I told him he couldn't build anything on my land, but apparently me showing him the legally recorded property boundaries meant nothing to him. Over the years, my neighbor got more aggressive with his encroachments. At first, he was just mowing the land beyond my fence. Then he started clearing brush. Then he built a massive duck pen with fencing directly on my land. That was my breaking point. I told him he had to move the pen immediately. He acted like I was the unreasonable one. So I went ahead and paid a surveyor to come out again to mark the property stakes just to shut him up. That's when he did something illegal. A few days after the surveyor came, I went to check on the markers. They were gone. Yep, this idiot pulled the property markers out. For those who don't know, removing a survey marker is illegal in New York, so I did exactly what any sane person would do. I reported him to the police for tampering with property markers. Then I paid the surveyor to come back out again and sued my neighbor in small claims court for the cost of the new survey. My neighbor didn't learn his lesson. After that, he rented a backhoe and started digging holes on my land. When I confronted him, he had the nerve to say, "I'm just making it easier to mow." Are you kidding me? I told him again to stop mowing my land and, just to be safe, put up a camera on the fence. That really pissed him off. He started ranting about how I was violating his privacy. On my property? At this point, I knew he wasn't going to stop until I made him stop, so I set up no trespassing signs on every part of my property line and positioned my camera directly at the fence. Sure enough, a few days later, he trespassed again. This time, I had it all on video. I immediately called the police, handed them the footage, and had my property survey ready to prove exactly where the boundaries were. The cops came out, took one look at the evidence, and officially trespassed him from my land. Now, if he sets foot on my property again, he'll be arrested. With all of this happening, my neighbor finally realized he wasn't going to win. He tried to play dumb for a while, acting like I was making a big deal out of nothing, but the moment he had actual police warnings on record, he knew he was screwed. His duck pen disappeared overnight, the mowing stopped completely, and no more digging. He doesn't even look in my direction anymore. Meanwhile, I made sure to keep my cameras up, keep my land well marked, and document everything. If he tries anything again, he'll have a nice, fat legal case waiting for him. I finally have peace and quiet again without my land being slowly stolen by an entitled idiot. The fact that he was mad about cameras on your own land is just crazy. Like, dude, you're the trespasser here. You were one legal step away from slapping him with a full-blown lawsuit. I hope he thinks of you every time he looks at that fence, knowing that he tried and failed spectacularly to steal your land. Hey guys, thank you all for watching the video. I'll see you in the next one.